Week 24, third grade, tree rings. Teachers, we're going to wrap up our unit on plants this week by studying some tree rings and looking at some leaves and seeing what we can find out about what rings tell us on a tree. I have some, we call these tree cookies, and these are nice and smooth. I will tell you that they will be in plastic sleeves because kids, when they start to count, they tend to want to mark on the board itself, and we don't want pencil marks on them, so I'm going to put them inside a plastic sleeve so they can't make marks on them. But this, I'm going to show you how to read this, and then you can pass this on to the kids. This first little round part of this center of this tree ring is the germination and the beginning of growth for this tree. So that was the year it was born. And that's important because the kids are going to make tree rings later on of themselves, and they need to know that the center is when they were born. Then we go out and we start counting these dark rings. As this tree begins to grow, you get this white wood. The white wood means that there's plenty of water and the cells are reproducing quickly inside the tree. And then at the end of the growing season, just before it goes dormant, you get this dark wood. And then another season of growth, and then the dark wood. So what this tells you is when that tree has a lot of white wood in here, then there was a lot of moisture and rainfall that year, and it grew quicker. Then you get down here to a narrower band right here, and there wasn't as much rainfall that year. So this will tell a scientist, like when this they need to know when this tree was cut down, what the climate was for this ecoregion when this tree was living there. This is a pine tree here that we have here in East Texas. It's one of our fast-growing trees. When you get a piece of hardwood, it's real hard to read the rings because they're very close together, because a hardwood doesn't grow like our pine does. I have another tree cookie here. And this was an extremely fast-growing tree because the rings in it are extremely wide apart. So this was a fast growth, fast growth, fast growth, fast growth, and then it began to slow down. There wasn't as much moisture this year, these 3 years right here. The outside of the tree is the bark. There's a very delicate edge right here called the cambium that protects the tree, but the bark is like our skin. It protects it also. So, the kids can handle these. They can look at them. But like I said, I really want them to be in plastic sleeves because these are hard to come by. They're expensive now to buy, and we want to keep them for everybody without pencil marks on them. So they're just a good way for kids to learn about how to look at tree growth and know the climate. I also have something else that I'm going to have in the classroom for them. And this is the way scientists count the years of a tree without cutting it down. They can just go in with a borer and they can bore into the side of that tree and pull these little plugs out, and then they can count them. Like this is a real good one to count right here. Like this would be the center of the tree at the tree's birth. And then you'd count these dark rings. So that tells them, okay, maybe this year there was a lot of rainfall. So these came out of different trees. You wouldn't compare all these together. You would look at each one separately. But this is actually a tool here that foresters use to put they call their borers in and take them back to their offices where they can look at this more closely. So I'm just going to have this for the kids to look at. It's not something I want them to pass around and handle. It's just because these are real delicate. They break very easily. And I've had this a number of years. Also, I had a really good website I found that had these colored tree rings on it. You can see they come from different places in the United States. They also tell you the time the tree was cut down. So this is a really good math problem to figure out at what point did that tree germinate if you know when it was cut. So that may be a math problem you want to work through. It would be a good way for the kids to think about, how do scientists actually go about doing this. And then they could kind of relate some things like in history, like what happened back on the day this tree germinated. What's the year? So again, I would start counting on your dark rings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So this tree is 24 years old. So what was the year it was planted, or what year did it germinate? Then I have some others that they can do some comparisons to. You can look at these two right here, and you can tell there was different amounts of rainfall at certain times. They could actually calculate the years that there was a lot of rain. Apparently something happened right here, and they need to know if there wasn't a lot of rain, what's that weather condition called? And then apparently at the end of its lifespan, it has real even rings, so apparently that's kind of like normal rainfall, with this being unusual right here. And then we have one from Boston, Massachusetts, and this tree has some damage to it. It has some marks on it, and kids are going to ask, well, what causes this right here? This could be a lightning strike. This could be a forest fire that did some damage. It could be an insect infestation. This right here, this happened when this tree was first germinating, just a young little sapling in the woods. Something happened to it to cause damage. This could have been another tree falling against it and leaning there for years. But look, it finally maybe rotted and fell off, and the tree started regaining its normal growth. But remember, bark around a tree is just like their skin. It's going to heal over any damage that's done if it doesn't kill the tree. It's just like a kid breaking his arm back here when he's 4. But when you look at him and he's 10 years old, you can't tell that. But a doctor who x-rays his body could see that break still. He'll always have that break on that bone when they x-ray him, but the outside of him looks normal and healthy. So that's a good way for kids to relate to trees, that when the damage is done to them, it's still internal, but on the outside they look okay. But this again goes back, it tells that it was harvested in 2000. So what year was that? Did that seed germinate? So this is just a real good comparison what we're going to do. I also have some leaves laying on the tables. I put these on a color copier. These are just real leaves that are copied. Good way to preserve your leaves. And I have these little flip books that are kind of fun for kids to look through and see that, well, I guess you look up the shape to determine what the leaf is. And these 3 leaves happen to be at the back of the book. This is a sweet gum. And then we have Eastern red cedar here. And the last one is our little loblolly pine. That's kind of hard to do in this book because they didn't exactly take a picture of the needles straight on, but this is a pine right here. So this is just a good way for kids to relate to the forest around us, since we do live in the East Texas piney woods, looking through this little tree book. Hope you enjoy. Oh, one other thing. We're going to make our own tree cookie. We're going to give a paper plate. I went ahead and did this ahead of time. My writing became horrendous as I continued making bigger rings. And what I did is I took this paper plate, made me a green dot for the day I was born. I put my birth date right here. And then this is my first year. And I just made up these things. Kids can write whatever they want. You may have to help them. But first year, kids learn to walk. Second year, they might learn to talk. I just made up something for year number 3. They got a dog, or you could say I learned my ABCs or colors or something. Then I learned to ride a bike. Let them come up with their memories. Started school the 5th year. Lost my tooth 6th year. My family went to the Grand Canyon when I was 7, and 8 I was on the All-Star baseball team. So I just made up stuff, and they get to go back to their memories and get their thoughts on this plate. Put the student's name up here, how old this tree is, and then put these out in the hall so everybody can read them. It'd just be a good activity to take back to your classroom. Thank you.